Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, and I'm taking care of business. Joining me today is Duane Bratt, a political science professor at Mount Royal University. Thanks for joining us today, Duane.
Hey, happy to be here, Mario.
Well, let's talk about the UCP and its leadership review that it just is going through right now, really. And what's your gut feeling on this, Duane? Does Jason Kenney survive this?
It depends on what you mean by survive. Can he pull out a technical victory and get over 50% plus one on the vote? I think he can. And I think he can because the rules have been changed to his advantage. The party executive is under the control of Jason Kenney. You saw that with his speech on Saturday, where he was able to put 100 staffers and party volunteers as a studio audience in front of his taping of his speech, all with matching placards, this vote yes, cheering and laughing, all at the right moments. Something more, the UCP president basically said, we have to be united, which is the whole theme of Jason Kenney. So yeah, because of all of those factors, I think he'll pull out a technical victory. Then the question is, what is the follow-up? Because in his speech, it was me versus disunity, unity versus disunity. I'm the only person who can keep the party together. I'm not sure he can. He said in his speech he would be expelling people who did not support him after the leadership review if he won, which would be people like Brian Jean and Danielle Smith. And is this 4 people? Is this 6 people? Are you creating a monster by having a brand new caucus of opposition members facing you? So it's that's where the uphill battle is going to be. If you get 55 or 60%, most leaders step down with that, because you need a very large majority of people are going to volunteer for you, work for you, donate money to you. If you've got a bare majority, that means there's a wide minority that doesn't have confidence in their leader. And how do you deal with that? So that's the challenge Kenney is going to have after May 18th when the results are known.
And yeah, can you talk a little bit, Duane, about the process and explain to people how this process?
Under the party constitution, this is a new party. They had to have a leadership review after an election. But then it was, when was the date going to be? And so for the longest time, there was no date established. And then there was pressure on Kenney. And then he said, well, we'll have it in the fall of 2022. And then there was more pressure within caucus. And then they said, well, we'll move it to April of 2022. And then a bunch of constituency association presidents signed a letter under the Constitution to say, no, we want it in December or January. The party executive kept it in April. So there's been a battle over the timing of the review. Then there was a battle over the rules. Originally, it was you had to show up and vote in person. That was the only acceptable fair ways. You had to show up in person. So they chose Red Deer. They chose Red Deer, not just because it was a central location, but it forced people from the larger cities to drive to Red Deer. The idea would be there'll be 2,000 people there. Kenney's organizational skills, he can dominate a small meeting. Well, then that small meeting became 8,000. Then it became 10,000. Then it looked like 20,000 people are going to show up to Red Deer, which was simply impossible. So they had to move it around. And now it's a mail-in vote of all members, of all 60,000. But previously they had said, mail-in votes can't be trusted. Now mail-in votes are correct. So when it was Kenney's advantage to have a small turnout, that's what they went with. When the advantage shifted, then it was, let's open it wider. And that's where a lot of the controversy is. Was the Kenney team aware that the rules were going to change? And were they selling memberships telling people, don't worry, you're not going to have to drive to Red Deer? Were they able to do that for a week and a half? These are the allegations that the rebels are making.
Okay, let's talk. I'm going to say let's talk about the rebels, but you know what? A really interesting dynamic here is the fact that you've got 2 leadership candidates sitting in the wings, or will be sitting in the wings,
and former party leaders, both former Wild Rose leaders. I think that shows some of the splits within the party. It highlights the gap between PCs and Wild Rose. It also shows the gap between urban and rural. When you think about the most most of the rebels, they're in rural Alberta. Brian Jean is in Fort McMurray. Danielle Smith is promising to go into Livingston McLeod. So that illustrates some of the tensions within the party. But Kenney's speech wasn't just about Jean and Smith. It was also about Rachel Notley, saying if we're not united, Rachel Notley will win. And he didn't say that, and we have fundamental disagreements with the NDP. He went much further than that. He said the NDP tried to destroy the province. And if they get elected, they will destroy the province. Not we have policy areas. They want to destroy Alberta as we know it. He used the phrase, create a vassal state for Trudeau. That's pretty inflammatory rhetoric. That may work well with 60,000 UCP members. I'm not sure how that well applies to 4.5 million Albertans. So how do you pivot from that statement where you also went after wokeism and critical race theory in the educational system to then campaigning in a general election?
Yeah, it'll be an interesting. So May 18th, right? Is the date?
Is when we'll know the results. Yeah, they've got a couple weeks to send in their ballots. Now we know you don't even have to mail them in person. You can send them to a central depot and they will be collected for you, which is another little twist in the rules. So May 18th is when we're expected to know about the results.
Okay, I'm going to switch gears a little bit here with you, Duane, and talk federal politics and conservatives. And they're in the middle of they will be in a leadership race. And what I find intriguing is, and I call it a machine, what Pierre Poilievre is doing right now. He's getting thousands.
It is a machine. He is drawing massive crowds wherever he goes, whether it is BC, whether it's Saskatchewan, whether it's Ontario. Jean Charest is doing TV interviews and Pierre Poilievre is doing a rally in front of 1,500 people or 2,000 people. And Poilievre already had a head start. Poilievre has the majority of MPs supporting him. It really is a juggernaut. And Patrick Brown, we're not hearing about Brown, but we do know that he's an organizer. So is he just sitting in the weeds, focusing on signing up members, while Poilievre is bringing up enthusiasm? Yeah, the party base seems to love Pierre Poilievre, and clearly the election is his to lose.
So tell me why you think he's getting these massive crowds to everywhere.
He has a good sense of messaging. He has been laser focused on issues of inflation. He clearly knows how to attack the Trudeau government, and he is seen as one of them. That not like an Aaron O'Toole who pretended to be a true blue conservative. He is a die in the blue, true blue conservative, and that's why he's getting so much enthusiasm. Just as I mentioned that Kenney's got the challenge of that speech going to UCP members to then a general election in Alberta, Poilievre's going to have the same problem about how do you pivot from the support he's got within the party to support amongst Canadians. But clearly the party grassroots loves Poilievre.
Yeah. And can you talk a little bit about his use of social media?
Very effective. Like these short video clips really resonate. And in very contrasting, Charest looks like an old fuddy-duddy compared to what Pierre Poilievre is able to do. Yeah. And so you may disagree with some of the content of it, but those are sidebars. It's the overall theme has become very effective.
Yeah, exactly. And Duane, I know that it's a long way to go until the Conservative Party leadership and the votes take place. But it's it looks pretty much a Pierre route, so to speak. What do you think Trudeau and his finance minister, Chrystia Freeland, are thinking about right now?
Yeah, and those are the questions. Are they sitting there worried about Pierre Poilievre as leader, or do they think that's the guy that we can run against? You know, if he wants to attack the Canadian dollar, which he has been doing, and talking about cryptocurrency, if he wants to support trucker convoys, they'll go, yeah, bring that on. Does Trudeau stick around? We know the deal he's made with Jagmeet Singh gives him a runway till about 2025.
Yeah.
Chrystia Freeland has looked strong on Ukraine and delivered, a fairly well-measured budget. Obviously the opposition didn't like it, but I think people generally saw it as a positive budget. Is she the heir apparent? And so could we be seeing a Poilievre-Freeland battle in 2025? There's open intrigue in the Conservatives, backroom intrigue in the Liberals.
All right, super. Thanks, Duane, for joining us again today.
All right, you're welcome, Mario.
All right, that was Duane Bratt, political science professor at Mount Royal University in Calgary. I'm Mario Toneguzzi. This is Taking Care of Business. Thanks for joining us today.